Thanks for joining us today. We've got a fascinating story to tell. Today we're talking about juvenile idiopathic arthritis and how Luke, a 13-year-old boy, was able to bypass the medical and pharmaceutical route and be able to get rid of his inflammation naturally using a low-fat, plant-based diet, specifically the Paddison Program for rheumatoid arthritis. And his mum is going to tell this story. It's a very, very interesting story. I've worked with her closely through Paddison Program support, and I have seen the transformation in her son, and now we're going to share it. So thanks for joining us. And Joe, what a story you've got to tell us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I can remember watching these four podcasts non-stop last year and thinking, next year, this will be me. I'm convinced it will be me. And here I am.
And you were inspired by Christine, who told her story about her son, Cole. And I think this is the power of sharing these stories and having a family like we have that watch these podcasts and are on their own journey, either just getting started or close to sharing their own success story. And I know that Christine's story about her son inspired you. It's just, it's that knock-on effect that makes it all so powerful. So let's get the snapshot. Give us the 30-second summary on Luke. How bad was he? How is he now?
At his worst, 8 months ago, it was in 8 joints of his body. His knees and his ankles were by far the worst affected, his knees especially. His knees were so swollen, he could not even straighten his legs any longer. They were in a fixed bent position. He couldn't run, he couldn't cycle. Just even getting out of a chair was really difficult for him. And so, that was him at his worst. Now, in the last month, he's run a mile at school and came 10th out of 25 children. He told me last week he can now skip. He runs up and down the stairs. Yes, he's got rehabilitation to do with his joints, but he just lives normally. He's just amazing, full of energy. He's just like, I've got my son back again.
When I did the interview with Christine and she told her story about Cole, and I encourage anyone to go and watch that. Christine really pioneered putting the Paddison program and adjusting it and modifying it for children in a way that's very kind of bespoke, depending on the child's age and depending on the parental, guidance as well. And so when she told her story, like tears came to my eyes because it's such a different scenario when it's a child. And hearing Luke's transformation just then gave me that same feeling of emotion, because as now a parent, and we see the vulnerability of our children and the responsibility as adults to give them an opportunity to have the best life possible. When we see them even slightly sick, we go into great concern, let alone something like an autoimmune disease. So what a great, amazing turnaround. Now, tell us, when did it start? What do you think triggered it? And let's get into the long form of the story.
Yeah, I think it's become very clear what was the trigger with this. I had had digestive problems since my 20s from being on antibiotics for 2 years. So this was quite chronic. And so this was going on even during my pregnancy. Then, unfortunately, I had Luke had a pretty horrendous birth, 36 and a half hours labour, and he was brought out by ventouse. And unfortunately, he had an infection in his head and he was put on antibiotics straight away in an incubator. And I was so unwell after the birth, I was not able to breastfeed. So everything was set up right from there.
The perfect storm. For creating a digestive imbalance for little Luke. I see. Well, and then did he have digestive issues and food intolerances throughout his sort of 0 to 10 years?
Well, actually, no, nothing we noticed particularly digestive-wise. As a baby, he was quite healthy. When he started to go to like preschool, he picked up a lot of infections. He had a lot of chesty coughs, ear infections, skin rashes. But since then, he's only ever had one day off school since he was 4. So that's 10 years with no time off school, apart from one day. And the only issue he's had, and I've mentioned this to you in the past, he was constantly sniffing and clearing mucus, from his throat. And I never could get to the bottom. Doctors didn't know what it was, but I just knew there was something underlying to cause that.
Mm.
But yeah, apart from that, he was incredibly healthy, happy, full of life child. No obvious digestive issues.
Okay, interesting. And did he? Was there anything unusual in the lead up to when he got symptoms at age 13?
Yeah, absolutely. He got a cough, which he wasn't off school with, but it went on for about 6 weeks. Normally, he was the sort of child, if he got a cold, he'd be over it within 2 days. And this was so bad, he was almost to the point of vomiting when he was coughing. So, yeah, that was right, to the lead up to it.
And was he put on antibiotics at that time? No.
Never had done, apart from
time.
when he was first born.
Yeah. Okay. And then where did it begin for him? In the knees?
Yeah, it started in October 2017. We were just sitting there watching telly one night, and he just says, "Mommy, look at my knee." And it had swollen, not badly, but it was slightly swollen. Now I thought, oh, that's strange. But he had come off his bike about 5 days previously and got his knee cut up in the spokes of his. He hadn't even told us that until then, so it hadn't bothered him. There was no obvious injury, but we just thought it had to be that. Left it for a couple of days, then took him to the doctor and said, "Just want to get this checked out." And they said, "Oh, yeah, it's a ligament injury. Leave it. In a week's time, you'll be fine." After a week, still wasn't. Took him back. They still said, "It's a sport injury, but we'll get some blood tests." Came back. The CRP was slightly elevated, just to 6, but they didn't seem to worry about that. They said it's probably all the inflammation going on to do with the healing. They said, "We will refer you to a pediatric doctor." So this all started happening, kicking off in about December. Then what happened was Luke's friend at school, his father is a surgeon whose friend at the hospital was a knee specialist. So he fast-tracked us, which actually things up a little bit, fast-tracked us to him. He examined him, gave him an MRI and said, "Yeah, there's a tiny bit of damage." He said, "But nothing untoward. I'll send you for the physio. It'll all sort itself out." So the beginning of January, he went to, there'd been no other changes. His knee got slightly worse. Went to the physio and she told him to rest completely for 2 weeks, to do nothing and ice his knee 4 times a day. So that's what we did for two solid weeks. Went back. It was obviously no better. Then she noticed, she said, "Have you noticed the left knee has got a little bit warm and slightly swollen?" I said, "No, I hadn't noticed." But when she pointed out, I could see very slightly. She said, "I'm actually suspecting this is not something, an injury." She said, "I think it's something more systemic." So straight away, I thought the worst. I thought, "Oh my God, he's got cancer or something really awful." I didn't even know what rheumatoid arthritis was then. That didn't enter my head. And she never said anything. So she referred me back to the GP, went to the GP, and he took one look at his symptoms and he said, "He's got juvenile idiopathic arthritis." I'm like, "What is that?" I said, "I don't know what it is." And so he started explaining and he says, "I'm going to have to refer you to a rheumatologist." So I went out of there and I just started researching straight away. And I was horrified by what I read. I just had no idea what it was, what it entailed. And then it says yes, some children can grow out of it, but vast majority don't. And they said the only way to treat it is by this chemotherapy type drug and I was just devastated. So anyway, because I had been a vegan myself for 3 years, so started looking straight away at the dietary. I knew so much dietary had a huge part to play. He was already a very healthy eater, but most certainly wasn't a vegan. So I went onto John McDougall's website And there was lots of information about rheumatoid arthritis and, low fat, not a low fat, but a plant-based diet. And lots of people who were talking about their experiences. So I thought, right, that's it. That's the answer. So got him on every plant-based anti-inflammatory food I could think of, and did this for a month. He agreed to it. My husband was incredibly supportive. We decided to go down that route, but it was still very high fat, a lot of plant oils, loads of nuts. And at that point, I didn't know about the low fat. After a month, his symptoms were getting worse, not better. And then it all came to a head in I think it was the beginning of February. His symptoms then had got so bad, his legs had gone into this fixed position. He was limping. And one morning I got up and I watched him go off to school down our path. He was limping so badly, trying to struggle with all his bags. And it just utterly broke me. I was devastated. I've never known a pain like that. I just broke down completely. And that was the day I found the Paddison Program. It was just like the worst day and the best day. And as soon as I read the information on the Paddison Program, it was just like this huge light bulb and this inner feeling, yeah, this is it. This is absolutely the route I need to go. And I spent days and days just watching everything, reading everything. I hardly slept. I just saturated myself in it. Once I'd done that, I spoke to my husband. He thought, yeah, let's do this. The only alternative is methotrexate or some other drug. So that's when we decided to make the commitment. And we started it in February. We went on the forum then, so I was doing it all by, just from what I'd read. And on the first 10 days, that's when I noticed an improvement. There was a definite lessening in the swelling. He just seemed better in himself. So I just wanted one sign that this was right. Then that was it. I've never deviated or diverted or lost faith in it ever since that moment. And, it was, I'm not going to paint a rosy picture. It is challenging. It's a challenging program for an adult, but the alternative is, it can be, their future, it can be devastating. So we were, started the program. Then we finally got referred to a rheumatologist, saw the rheumatologist, explained the Paddison Program to him. He wasn't that interested, but he said, okay, that's fine, as long as he's getting lots of calories and stuff. He says, I definitely want to put him on methotrexate and I want to give him cortisone injections in his knees. So we said, right, we'll go away and think about it. We decided the cortisone injections could really help. It wasn't so much, he said, from the damage, because it was very early days. It was more from the fact he was worried about his ligaments and muscles. So, but we said no to methotrexate. We said, we really want to give this program a fair chance. I said, so we had the injections. The results overnight were utterly transformative. His knees went down, he ran down the stairs, and it lasted for 4 days. Then the heat came back, the swelling came back, worse than ever. Do you want me to stop, or should I just keep
please.
on?
Hey, you're really great pace on the story too. It's moving along really interestingly.
Okay, so then we came off the initial 10 days of the program, and then we started introducing things maybe a little bit too quickly because he really wanted to get back to some yummy food, as he called it. So we added like toast, black beans, sort of things that were maybe a little bit too heavy. But then it started going around all his joints. His jaw was affected, his neck, his elbow. But because I'd read so much, I understood in the early stages of rheumatoid arthritis, there's a real force behind it. And his CRP was up near 50. So the doctor said, unfortunately, he has this really badly. This is not a mild dose. He's got extremely high CRP. It's now affecting 8 joints. So I knew there was an incredible force. But despite that, his energy levels were really good. His pain levels were low, no painkillers, nothing, and he was handling it amazingly. So I just felt so inspired not to go. I knew there was probably quite a strong chance at that point we may have to go on methotrexate, because I know the two often work very well together, especially when it's that bad. So we carried on with the program. Obviously, just kept adjusting that, and we backed off. We went back more to the 10-day stage for a while, for another 3 weeks, until Luke really couldn't bear it any longer, and then we slowly started adding things back in. All the meantime, the CRP was still really high. The doctors, by that point, was really starting to put pressure on us to start methotrexate. And I just kept stalling him. I just felt so instinctive about this. It was sort of like a real gut feeling. I just thought, no, not yet, not yet. I don't want to. I really want to get this chance. By this time, we joined the forum. I had a personal one-to-one with you, and we'd really fine-tuned things and got him on some amazing probiotics, the VSL3. So his whole general health was really good. Then the rheumatologist we saw, we finally got to the point where we both decided, yeah, okay, well, maybe we do need the extra support of methotrexate alongside the program. So I thought, okay, fair enough. We've given it 5 months. So I was disappointed, but I thought, no, this is actually another step towards him getting well. So I kind of turned it into a positive. We went to see the rheumatologist nurse. We picked up our methotrexate, and she said to me, well, he finishes school in 4 weeks. She says he's got a really busy term at school. She says it was his birthday, all sorts of things were happening. She said, why don't you put the methotrexate, don't start it today, put it off for another few weeks, and then start it in the school holidays. So then any side effects will, not, affect school. Give him 6 weeks to get used to it. So that was the whole plan. Anyway, she told me to get his CRP done the week before he started the methotrexate, which I did. I picked up the result. He was due to start methotrexate on, I think it was Friday the 21st of July or something. I picked up his results on the Wednesday, and they told me, I went to the doctor's surgery to pick it up in person. I said, can I just pick up his CRP? Just casually waiting there, waiting for him to say 49 or whatever. She said, it's 15. I almost fell over. I was absolutely gobsmacked. And I asked her to double check. I asked her to print out the report. I just couldn't believe it. So that's 48 hours before he was due to start methotrexate. So that nurse had given us a lifeline, because if we'd started methotrexate the day we were due to, we would have put the results down to methotrexate and not his body fighting this disease itself. So it was absolutely incredible. I contacted the rheumatologist. He said, well, yes, it's good, but I still want him to go on methotrexate. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I said, give me a month. So he gave me a month. Unfortunately, then he retired. So we never actually got to see him again.
Oh, so disappointing. You didn't get to close this loop. It'd be great if you could send him this podcast.
I know, it would have been, but anyway, it didn't happen. So then we had an interim then while they were finding a new doctor, of probably about two months, I think it was. But in that meantime, his CRP came down to zero. Well, right down to normal. And by this time, all his joints had started to get better. His legs straightened out. He was walking normally. It was just like this huge knock-on effect then of everything turning itself around. So he had an incredible improvement in that 2-month period. Then we went to see a new rheumatologist who actually was only going to see Luke once. She was training a pediatric doctor to take over the patients, because they don't have many rheumatologists here in Cornwall. So we walked into this appointment. I was as high as a kite. I thought, my God, we've cracked it. They're going to be so impressed with this program. I walked in. There was 5 people in this room. We were totally unprepared for that. And this female rheumatologist, she examined him, and she sat there, Clint, and she looked at Luke. She said, I am so sorry, but she says, you're in a really bad way. She said those words to him. And she said, it is really active in 8 of his joints. And she said, I interrupted. I said, no, he is not in a bad way. I was furious with
Mm.
her. And I said, he's not in a bad way. He said, can't you see, you will see from his notes the incredible improvement he's made. His CRP's down to 0. She says, I don't even look at CRP levels. She
She's
said, I
not.
just do not.
She's definitely
And
an outlier then if she doesn't look at
oh
CRP
my,
levels. Mm.
and anyway, she was just, she just said he's in a really bad way. She says, my absolute highest recommendation, I want to bring him into hospital immediately and put him on a prednisone drip for 3 days. Then she says he needs to start methotrexate straight away. I was absolutely,
It's almost
I
like
couldn't believe.
it's almost like she's brainwashed into some kind of weird person that doesn't even see reality. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. I mean, and not even from a point of view of someone who's not a doctor. I mean, if my rheumatologist was listening to this, because keep in mind how many sessions I'd with my rheumatologist. I mean, my rheumatologist, I know how he thinks very, very well because I spent a lot of time, many half-hour sessions with my rheumatologist and just sucking the information the way he thinks about these situations. There's no way that he would look at, because I know he went to Luke went from C-reactive protein of 49 milligrams per liter down to 0.47. And you're saying that all of his limping went away, his pain went away, and she's there panicking to put him into hospital. I mean, the person's not quite there.
No, I was absolutely horrified, but she was throwing all these statistics at me and she really threw me. She said, you don't realize what's going on, the damage that's happening. I was so upset.
You know what it is,
Anyway,
Joe? She was putting on a performance, or she felt a way to basically try and influence those other 4 people in the room. That's what had to be happening, because there's no other explanation. There's no other explanation because she was doing something, but she basically decided how to treat him before she saw him, I think, and then felt like she was trapped and had to proceed with whatever she was prepared to say originally. Weird.
Yeah, it was weird. But it just threw me and I was so upset. I came out of there. But you know what, Clint? Within half an hour of coming out there, all my resilience was back even stronger. I thought, no. I said, no way are you telling me that my child needs to all that treatment and he is in a bad way. It's just not the truth.
This quickly as possible, get a second opinion. That's the most softest way I can say that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't get the option of a second opinion because there's no more rheumatologists unless we wanted to do a 6-hour car trip and there was no guarantee we'd get a better one.
Yeah.
So we just thought, no, we're doing this our way.
Yeah.
I don't want to rub their backs up, but I'm finished, So we just came home. We thought, no, we know he's improving. And, they did want a whole series of MRIs, ultrasounds, x-rays. And I thought, well, sure, let's go ahead and do that. And he's had nothing but tests done on him in the last couple of months. He's had everything MRI'd, everything ultrasound. And that's actually been fairly beneficial, knowing what damage has done. That was okay.
Yeah, so, if you can get tests done, lots and lots of data is good. You can't have too much data. If you've got lots and lots of MRI, I mean, I just had an MRI on my knee the other week because I wanted to find out how my knee was, and it had been 9 years since I'd had an MRI on my left knee. And so, data is great. We want that. So great, no problem with that. But drugs, when it's considered, overkill, that's dangerous. MRI is not dangerous. X-ray,
yes.
X-ray's got only such a small, tiny danger. It's insignificant. So, non-harmful information is great. So how have all these MRI results come back? So, you've really stirred up. We got really stirred up by this person who was on display to some colleagues and trying to show how it should be done to all JIA cases and made some ridiculous claims. But how has his joints all shown up with these MRIs?
Actually, to be perfectly honest, overall, really well. The reports are so vague. Maybe it could be this, or maybe there was, apart from on the ultrasound on his, I think it was right ankle, where they said there was significant synovial thickening. But even then, the guy that did the ultrasound, he said, this is still part of his body getting better. But the doctors seem to turn it into something in their reports, and
Sure.
it's kind of twisted. But overall, I have to say, it shows a few little things, but nothing significant at all.
Yeah. Wow. So he's also been doing some sessions with the exercise physiologist, Carl, who I had on the show several months ago. He's kind of the official exercise physiologist for our program, and he helps a lot of people with debilitating joint conditions to get mobile again, particularly with the lower body, the knees and stuff. And now I recommended him to you. Luke started doing sessions over Skype with him. Carl's based in South Africa. You're obviously based in the UK. How were those sessions? And tell us how they helped Luke.
Oh, they've been absolutely amazing. I can't thank you enough for putting us in touch with him. I cannot recommend him enough to anybody. He is amazing. He's such a nice guy. I just couldn't understand how it was going to work over Skype. But it does. It's been effortless. It's just worked really, really well. And what has been helpful, this only happened recently, to have a report from the physiotherapist, because he wasn't able to examine Luke completely himself. Having a physio report, that's fine-tuned it even more. But he's just set up this program very specific to Luke to rebuild, get his core strength, builds up his muscles slowly but surely. It was interesting with the cycling. Luke's got an indoor bike that he's been using. We'd had that set up completely wrong, which would only been aggravating his knees. So he set all that up right, showed us how to set up, and that really actually made a difference with his knees. That is a really, we had weekly sessions for a little bit, then every other week, and now it's once a month. We go back and fine tune it. And, that has been absolutely phenomenal. Really recommend him. He's a lovely guy.
And what improvements has he seen by following the recommendations?
Oh, well, he's just gradually getting fitter and stronger. He's able to use his joints more. Honestly, he's just living pretty much a normal life now, a normal, teenage boy life. He can run, cycle, he can climb. I can't think of anything he can't really do anymore. And so it's just gradually getting his joints stronger and stronger, and his core health, because he was in that fixed bent position for 5 solid months. That obviously took quite a toll on his whole body. So it's all about getting his posture right, and it's been a really powerful part of that with the Paddison program has been amazing.
How does he wake up in the morning these days? Does he struggle out of bed, or is he getting out of bed quite comfortably?
Well, as any teenager, he'd rather not get out of bed, but no pain, no stiffness. He just runs down the stairs. He's just absolutely, he never mentions any stiffness anymore or anything like that at all. He's
phenomenal.
Just amazing. To see him, you would think there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. He just looks like a normal, healthy teenager.
Isn't it absolutely sensational?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, miracle.
Let's share some tips for some other people who are either adult rheumatoid arthritis folks, or maybe parents with a child with JIA who are watching this and wondering about some more specifics. And before we do this, I just want to make clear that the program was never designed for anyone who is pregnant, who is breastfeeding, or who is under the age of 18, or who's elderly and frail. All right, so what we're doing here is we're taking a program that's clearly for 18-year-olds and over, an adult program, and using common sense and discretion and taking personal responsibility as a parent, applying that to our child, knowing that the program is not designed for children. And why is it not designed for children? And why haven't I created one specifically for kids? Is because there are too many variables. do we create one for a child who's 4-year-old, and for one who's 10, and for one who's 13? And do we create that for a fussy eater, for one that can exercise, for one that cannot?
Yeah.
And just the growth of the children at different ages and their ability to exercise and so forth, all of these variables make it too complicated for a single program. And so that's why, I make it clear with disclaimers and so forth, this is not created for under 18s, and that parents need to take their own responsibility with this and make modifications. And what Cole and Christine did was fast track the reintroductions of the foods. And I'll ask you about if you did that in a moment as well. And so that's one way to kind of ensure that no kind of nutrient sort of deficiencies can creep in, or I don't know, also a boredom for the foods can creep in, because children, they want to kind of have more tastier foods. We can put up with simpler foods as we're an adult because we know the big picture of what we're trying to achieve. But as a child, that sort of delayed gratification, or that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's harder to picture. It's harder to see. We just want to eat fun food. We want to eat tasty foods, So tell us how you made these modifications for Luke, and things that he enjoyed, and ways that he was able to incorporate these healing foods so that it worked.
Yeah, I think I have been very lucky with Luke. He took it on board really well, and he wasn't overly fussy about the foods. He's never been a fussy eater, so I had that in my favour. Also, I think it helped the fact that he didn't have any brothers or sisters around him. He's an only child eating lots of different foods. I think that may have been a little bit more, not impossible, but more challenging.
Yeah.
So we were able to really focus on it. In the first 10 days, he didn't do the 2 days juicing because of his age. He's also very slim build. I was really worried he was going to lose weight, which he never has done. He's never done anything but put weight on since he's been on the program, even in the early days. So the first 10 days, we really did it 100% how it is, except for two things. One, he just couldn't tolerate the miso. So he wanted tamari soya sauce on his grains. So that was the only difference we did. Also, he said he really had to have something crispy. So I found these 100% buckwheat crackers online somewhere. So he had those. So he had a few of those each day. So that got us through the first 10 days. At first, he said he would never eat sweet potatoes. And then after about 3 days, he ate them. And for like 2 months, he was obsessed with them. He hasn't eaten one since that 2-month period, mind you. He's gone off them now. But he would have them like 3 times a day. He just loved them in every variation. So, yeah, it was actually relatively easy. Then after the 10-day period, we started, I can't remember exactly, I think it was tomatoes we added. He added tomatoes the first few days, and then I think it was black beans, because I was really aware, I felt he needed maybe more protein or something a bit more substantial to fill him up. During the 10 days, he had lots of white basmati rice and lots of fresh orange juice, for the extra calories. And he loved that. That worked really well.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination, the orange juice and basmati rice, in terms of weight gain, because I used that with great effectiveness to put on muscle for a period of time when I was transitioning away from only doing buckwheat, quinoa, sweet potatoes. And when I could do basmati rice, I was thrilled. I had orange juice. And then I noticed my weight really being responsive to workouts. I noticed that I was able to really gain muscle quite quickly. And it's just quite simple calories, isn't it? I mean, you got really simple calories with the orange juice. That's just a whole bunch of fructose. And then you've got really simple calories coming out of what is pretty much a processed carbohydrate in basmati rice. And so, it's amazing what the body can transform into quality tissue and to usable energy. Because I'm not suggesting that he was only having orange juice and basmati. I'm just saying that those are useful foods for weight maintenance and for strength and so forth.
Yeah, no, he was having the 3 grains and, oh my goodness, tons of salad leaves. We didn't have a juicer then, but after about 2 weeks, we got a juicer then. So then every day he was having his cucumber and celery juice as
Awesome.
well as everything else.
Okay.
So we were just like flooding his body with alkaline, things. And then we started the VSL3. So that all started then. So then we added the wholemeal toast. That was something he really wanted to fill himself up with. So they're the only changes we made. But then I noticed him, he just didn't seem to be doing quite as well. So we decided to go back to the very basics again for another 10 days. He said he could manage it. And we actually stuck at that for another 3 weeks. But then he made it very obvious, that's enough. I can't do this any longer. Mm-hmm. So then we added the tomatoes, the black beans, the toast back in. And then he's been fine, actually. We've just gradually expanded it, eventually adding his absolute favorite, which is almond butter. That's his go-to for filling up.
Yeah.
And we've actually still kept the diet incredibly simple, even now, a year on, because he's just quite enjoying it. He still has 2 big meals of grain a day, and he adds tomatoes, onion, garlic, black beans, some tamari soya sauce, sauerkraut, great big bowl of salad greens, and, toast, almond butter. Luckily, he has no problems with really good quality wholemeal bread. So, I mean, there's some days he almost eats a loaf of it just to, fill himself up. So, yeah, we've still kept it, and I still feel, as long as he's happy, to keep his diet incredibly simple. He does have a blowout every couple of months. He demands something, and I know he needs that mentally. So he does keep occasionally asking. I spoke to you a few days ago. He wants a cup of coffee, and he says, "Can I have a packet of crisps?" And I'm just so wary of getting into any bad habits when he's doing so well. I don't want things to slip back. So maybe I'm being too cautious. I don't know. But he's doing fantastically well on it.
You could, given that he can tolerate black beans, see how he goes with some mung dal, some split yellow peas that are, basically cooked and made into a nice Indian dish. Melissa has a recipe on that inside the forum, so just go in there and I'd imagine that he would like that. The spices are everything when it comes to the Indian dishes, and if you can get the spices right, goodness me, the dals can be incredibly tasty. The black beans can become a little mundane after a while. Even if we have them too often in our family, I get a little bit too familiar with the taste. So I would suggest that as another main meal option for him.
I actually meant to say he has that diet Monday to Friday. When he's off at the weekends, for lunch I make him homemade baked beans. So he has those for his lunch, and in the evening he has like a bean chili, a homemade bean chili with lots of vegetables and lots of different beans, and he has it on basmati rice. So sorry, weekends are slightly different.
Sounds great. Sounds like you've got a wonderful routine going on. As a parent, how much have you changed your diet and the family's diet to match what Luke's been doing?
My husband has been incredibly supportive. He's not interested in nutrition or anything like that at all. He's a real meat-eating, beer-swilling guy, but he was incredibly supportive right from day one. He's never wavered, but he always said he was not going to change his diet. So, I mean, that was it. Often he's not here anyway because of shift work, so it was never really an issue. My diet was vegan through finally finding out the real problem with my digestive. I haven't been able to stay. It's a long story, but I wasn't able to stay 100% vegan, but still 95%. So certainly in the early days, I stayed with Luke 100%. We ate the same things. I never wanted him to be seeing he was doing this on his own. So yeah, that's what we did.
What's your current plan for him in terms of ongoing tests? Are you going to keep an eye on him every couple of months, have his C-reactive protein tested, just so that you guys can? Yeah,
Yeah, I've got it down to about every couple of months now.
yeah,
I mean, his knees are cold nearly all the time now. You know, you can see if something's slightly changed, and he's very good to tell me if there's any issues. So I don't see the point of keeping on giving him, blood tests. He's had so many tests over this last couple of months. I just want to leave him alone a little bit.
yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
where the doctor's concerned, they're still not giving us any support whatsoever. Um, it's really, we were now seeing a pediatric doctor, very nice guy, but not interested in the Paddison program whatsoever. And he actually said to me on the last appointment, he said, "You have got no doubts whatsoever about this program, have you?" I said, "No, not one." I said, "I know it works and I know it will carry on working. I have not one doubt." And he's like, "Well, okay, well, I can't say anything against it." And he says, "But, rheumatoid arthritis, it does go up and down, it has peaks and troughs." I said, "Yeah, for 5 months, he's done nothing but get better." I thought, oh, I'm just done with them, honestly. They just give us no support. In the last letter we got from the hospital, it said, it does appear that the Paddison program has helped a little, and that is the only thing they've ever acknowledged. So, what can you do?
Oh,
you just you just have to stay strong, and be so determined, and just have so much belief and
mm,
trust and patience. You know, just got to be resilient and say, no, I am not going down this route. When it's your health, maybe it's different, but when it's your child, you know the alternatives. I recently read a report in a newspaper 2 weeks ago about a little boy, an 11-year-old boy in Cornwall, that was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis 3 years ago. He has been fully medicated since that point, and he's in a really bad way. It was heartbreaking reading this report. He now has to use a wheelchair a lot of the time. He has a stair lift in his house because he can't even walk up the stairs. And his mom said she's just, in despair. I actually contacted her, but she hasn't got back to me. I don't know for what reason. But yeah, I mean, I thought this would have been. I showed Luke the article. I said, this could well have been you because you've had it so badly. And this is what the Paddison program has given you. It's given you your life. The alternatives were horrendous for him. So
yeah.
amazing.
That's what's mystifying is that the medications that are pushed so aggressively towards the children via the
Not
parents
help.
are sometimes not effective, number one,
No.
and sometimes extremely poor in terms of the side effects that can be created. I think what it is, and I think this is what it all comes down to, is that it's still outside of our community, everyone watching this, and you and I, and our forum, and our mailing list, and the way that we all communicate with each other in sharing information that we all take now as sort of almost common sense and what works and what we all should do. Outside of our community, this stuff is still quackery. This stuff is still impossible. It's still
Yeah.
medically impossible to not be on medications when you have juvenile idiopathic arthritis. It's considered medically impossible to get your blood inflammation back to normal without using drugs. I mean, all the things that we share on podcasts on regular basis are considered medically impossible by everyone else. And so we bang our heads against the wall when medical professionals are so naive to what's possible, and yet it's still the case. I mean, and it's with so much work to be done. There's so many stories like yours that I want to get out, and there's so much more work to be done. It motivates me when I hear such head in the sand kind of stuff going on all around the world. There's nowhere that's really transforming the way that it should at this point.
No, not at all. No.
Anyway, look, we can only influence the people that we are, that we love and care for. And in your case, you've been able to do that with your family, and most dramatically with Luke. And wow, he's powerful, almost adult thinking young boy to be able to take this on and to push through all this, because I don't know if I could have done that at 13. And you are Mother of the Year for being able to guide him through this and to hold his hand and to eat the way that, you've been encouraging him to do, and to keeping the faith and to just driving it and being cautious too. Every time you'd reach out to me with another question, it was a cautionary question. It was, should we do this? Should we not? Should we stop this? Should we start this? Should we discontinue this? Should we pick up on this? Should we stay on these simple foods for longer? The care that you've had as a parent comes through tremendously, not just in this conversation, but when in our private conversations as well. So congratulations on all that you've done. This is something that's going to be on your minds for the rest of your lives. Once something like this comes to fruition, we then need to carefully, very delicately manage it for the rest of our lives. And so what a great, great initial beginning. And like you say, sometimes with JIA, it can completely go away, unlike an adult rheumatoid arthritis, which I believe personally needs to be carefully monitored for life. But I know that the studies show, and I've got other examples where JIA has totally gone, and now adults, not my clients, but people I know who have had JIA as children, have been adults for decades without any symptoms. And so, this is also a chance, and the way that he's eating now gives him the best chance of that being the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 2 rheumatologists have said that he is unlikely to outgrow it because he's had it so badly.
Well, we know that rheumatologists can be surprised and can be shocked and can be, always learning something new. So congratulations on this wonderful progress so far. 12 months, what a transformation in 12 months. Make sure he keeps up the leafy greens. They are by far and away the most important aspect of what he's doing. And continue to make sure that, junky foods don't start to come in. Keep a close eye on his maybe quarterly blood tests, and you'll be steering this like a puppeteer and keeping everything going just nicely. So fantastic. And make sure you tell him congratulations on all he's achieved from me. And when I'm in, hopefully I'll make it to the UK over the next year or two and be able to meet you guys in person.
Wow, that'd be amazing. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks so much. It's been wonderful to be able to share such good news, and I appreciate you doing so.
Well, I mean, I just, from me, Clint, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving Luke a future, because I know without this program, his future would have been totally different. So unless you had done what you do, it's just been a miracle. I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thanks.
And from Luke.
Thank you, Joe. That is lovely. I really, appreciate that. But all the thanks is just hearing this story. What a, there's a children's book series, and it's about filling buckets. I don't know if you read this to Luke when he was little, but this concept of bucket filling, and when you say something nice to someone, you fill up their invisible bucket. And when you are mean to someone, the metaphor is that you're taking away from their bucket, and they have an empty bucket and they feel sad. So when I hear stories like this, my bucket is so full that it's overflowing, and that's just such a wonderful gift to receive. So thank you so much.
And one thing I want to say to people is please have patience. Please trust this program and trust you. Just flood yourself with podcasts and everything. This program works.
Thank you. Okay, I'll let you enjoy the rest of the day. I know it's very early for you in the UK. Thanks for setting up a time that was a little bit early in the
Well,
morning.
thank you.
And we'll continue to chat online.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.